Welcome to another episode of Behind the Dreamers. I'm your host, Jennifer Loehding, and we are talking to the achievers, the creators, the magic makers, and the dreamers. These are our friends. These are your friends, and they are living the extraordinary. Well, wherever you are tuning in today to listen to this episode, we're excited that you are here, and I have another amazing guest on the show. I'm always excited about my guests. Get to meet a lot of awesome people doing awesome things in the world. But he is a dynamic entrepreneur that embodies the principles of simplicity, adaptability, and mental clarity. These guiding values have seamlessly aligned with his ventures in the Web3 sphere, where he excels in devising innovative solutions for e-commerce challenges. So we are going to bring him on in just a few minutes. But before we do that, we need to do a quick shout out to our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Walt Mills Productions. Need to add excitement to your YouTube videos or some expert hands for editing? Look no further. Walt Mills is the solution you've been searching for. Walt is not only your go-to guy for spicing up content, he's the force behind a thriving film production company with numerous titles in the pipeline. Always on the lookout for raw talent, Walt is eager to collaborate on film and internet productions. With a background deeply rooted in entertainment and promotion, Walt Mills leverages years of skills to give you the spotlight you deserve. Want to learn more about Walt and his work? Head on over to waltmillsproductions.net and let your content shine. All right. And with that, we are ready to bring our guest on the show. So with a knack for strategic thinking and flexible approach, Eric McHugh leads the forefront of ShopX, a pioneering Web3 loyalty engine. ShopX is dedicated to transforming digital assets into meaningful customer engagement, empowering brands to connect more deeply with their audience. So welcome to the show, Eric. I am so excited to have you here today.
Hey, Jennifer. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really grateful, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
It's going to be so much fun. So I want to open this up because one of the things I love about Behind the Dreamers is that we get so many diverse people on this show. I'm just talking from all walks of life, young, old, it doesn't matter where you are. But I think what's really neat about when I love young entrepreneurs. I love when they come on the show because they bring a fresh perspective to the entrepreneur space. So I'm really excited, to have you on here and to chat with you about your journey and what you're doing. But I want to get this started with a little bit of background on this Web3, because for me, I have no idea what this even is. And I know there are going to be many listeners tuning in that are going to go, okay, what is this that he's doing? So maybe share a little bit about what ShopX is and what this Web3 e-commerce is.
Sure. So I'm happy to. And I think I'm the perfect person to describe this because what ShopX is, it's a way for Web2 brands to enter the Web3 space. So I've spoken to many executives about what Web3 is and why it's important. To understand what Web3 is, I think it's important to go back to Web 1 versus Web 2 versus Web 3, just so it all makes sense. So in Web 1, just think of Google, think of read only. So if you're in Web 1, you can go online, you can read content, which is amazing because that really exponentially increased the way people can absorb knowledge. So that was very beneficial for humans as a whole. Web 2, I would say the easiest way to frame this is as social media. So in Web 2, you can read and write. So just think of Instagram. So if we're on Instagram, I can write a post, you can read my post, you can interact with that post, you can like that post, you can do what you will with the post. The only issue is we don't own the post. So in this example, Instagram owns the post. They can sell our data for nefarious purposes. They can come back and cancel us for any particular reason, which is important because let's say we say something on this podcast that may not fly 20 years down the line. They can retroactively find our content, cancel both of our platforms just for having this open discussion. So the missing aspect for Web 2 is ownership. So Web 3, I want you to think of read, write, and own. So not only in Web 3 can you read content, you can write content, but you can also own the content, which is extremely important. So the ownership aspect could either come in the form of a cryptocurrency or an NFT. So let's say my area of expertise is e-commerce because that's what ShopX does. So let's say hypothetically, any e-commerce brand creates a NFT. You purchase that NFT, you're gifted the NFT. However you end up with the NFT, you end up with the NFT. So just think of it as a digital plot of land. So an NFT is like a digital plot of land. Let's say you had a plot of land in the real world. What can you do with the plot of land? Well, you can do whatever you want. You can build a school, you can build a garden, you can let it be, you can build a house, you can do what you want. So NFT is the same concept. So with that NFT, there's now a connection between the creator and the consumer like never before. And it's different because now it's a direct connection, meaning like as an NFT holder, I can send value your way and you can send value my way. And unlike in Web 2, if you own that NFT, I may have created that NFT, but I can't take it away from you. It's your NFT. Mm-hmm. The government can't take it away from you. It's your NFT. Amazon or Instagram can't take it away from you. It's your NFT to do what you will with. So this is extremely important in terms of content, but it can also be pretty important if you consider like money as a form of content, which I think it is. So like imagine if you had a piece of currency that no one can take away from you. So that's the importance of Web3.
Okay. Yeah, no, it makes sense. And thank you for clarifying that, because I had no idea it's kind of like talking to me about tech stuff. It's like, that is like so far out of my wheelhouse. And I know there are other, there are going to be people that listen to this and go, and they know exactly, what you were talking about. But I like how you explained that out, because then it made sense. And, I was thinking about this when you were talking about the Instagram post, because I had a client that I've been working with her for 4 years now, and started when she's a young client, and she built her platform, started out on Instagram, building out that, and had, I'm talking probably 20,000+ followers, and she's had her Instagram shut down like multiple times, and finally had to restructure her business and move away from that. She still uses it, but she immediately takes those people off Instagram, moves them to another platform, because she got tired of having to rebuild that platform again. And so I can see how, something you're doing could be beneficial to a brand that's looking to have that ownership and be able to control that, versus having somebody else be able to shut their, take control of their assets or whatever it is they're marketing, whatever it is that they're doing.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And the worst thing about like Instagram or social media bans is a lot of times it's functioned by bots. So she may have not done anything wrong,
right,
but it triggers a bot algorithm, and then your Instagram page is down. So if that's your livelihood, you're trying to speak with a bot, you try to reach out to Instagram, what takes like a month or two, and then that's maybe they reinstate you. So yeah, no, ownership is extremely important in that aspect.
And I don't even know if you'd get a person, even if you tried to at this point, right? I know for a while I was doing ads. I know we're on a different conversation, but I was doing ads through Facebook years ago. And for whatever reason, it's so funny. I'm in the health and wellness space. I was at that time. They had it flagged, and they kept saying I was trying to put like pornographic material on Facebook. And I'm like, what are y'all talking about? Like, I'm talking about mind and body stuff, like mindset, and for whatever reason, the algorithm kept, I don't know if it was a picture that it had flagged or whatever, but it was linked to my account. So every time I was putting this ad out, it kept doing that. And I gave up. I just stopped doing ads through Facebook, because every time I would try to run through and get somebody, I kept getting the same line of jargon back. Never could I get a person. I could never get like a live. I just kept getting like this, bot. I don't know. I'm assuming it was bots that had flagged it. And then whatever they have set up for their customer service, I have no idea what that even is.
Yeah. And this might go up a little bit tangent, but like the fact that because going forward, AI bots are going to be able to flag content. Like, for example, like even with my other company, Dating, we're able to scan a picture like on Instagram, and you only have to do a caption, but we know you're in national park, we know it's male, we know it's female.
Right.
So going forward, AI bots are going to be the flagging source for content like YouTube, which I think it's pretty scary if you consider. So it's essentially government or big companies controlling what is getting flagged or not. So let's say hypothetically Google doesn't like a certain race of people, so they're the ones training the AI bots to flag a certain thing. So that's going to scale up and just I think it's eventually going to mass cancel a lot of things, which is why Web3 is so important at this particular point in time.
Yeah. So I'm curious to know what led you into this industry. Like, what brought you to this? I saw that you did a SaaS platform before. Am I correct? Did I read that right?
Yes.
Okay. I want to make sure I read that right before I just throw that out there. But I'm just curious to know, like, how you came to this place. Like, what brought you to this?
Yeah, sure. So my overall goal is to live a nice, peaceful life. That's always been my goal. I found it more difficult to do if I view the money system as corrupt. So I think of the money system as a way for the rich to siphon off the poor, fund their rich friends, and essentially we're getting money stolen from us every second of every day in the form of inflation, and which is why everything's getting more expensive. So I'm like, oh, that's a problem. How do I fix this? And that led me to physical gold and physical silver as the answer. So I got in as a gold silver bug, and then Bitcoin was the next evolution of that. So I'm like, okay, gold and silver is cool. But then I found this Bitcoin found me. I'm like, oh, this Bitcoin thing is just it's the internet version of this. This is better. Let me put all my time and energy into this. So at that time, I was a consultant. I was helping bankrupt companies, like Fortune 500 companies, go through the bankruptcy process, which is cool, honestly, like paid well. It's a chill job, like no complaints, but like this doesn't align with the Bitcoin ethos. So I waited for my bonus, because if you're going to quit a consulting firm, you might as well wait for your bonus.
Right.
Then I started going to cryptocurrency meetups in my local area, where I met the original ShopX team. We were building ShopX ever since then, but in the meantime, we spun off a SaaS platform too. That got VC funded, and we worked out of an incubator in Santa Monica. It's one of the best in the world. So like an incubator for your listeners is startup school. So like it's a building, startups are desk clumps right next to each other. So our neighbors were actually Liquid Desk. So as a young adult, new in the entrepreneur world, I was blessed to be surrounded with a room full of founders and like 20 different companies at 20 different stages in 20 different industries. So obviously I chatted with all of them, got lunch, went on walks. I'm like, what worked for you? What worked for you? What didn't work for you? So I absorbed a ton of knowledge from them, which has all been redirected back into ShopX. And I have another company too. It's called DATAIng, which is a AI powered matchmaking service. So my logic behind companies is I think everyone's happiest when they're serving other people. And I think God, the creator, universe, whatever you want to call it, I think he blesses each of us with individual gifts. So for example, which is why authenticity is so important. Like, you're the best Jennifer in the world. So if I try to do what you do, you'll probably crush me every time. But if you try to do what I do, I'll crush you every time. So how do we best serve other people? We follow intellectual curiosity, and these manifest in different companies. So it just happened to me. It was a Web3 platform and a matchmaking platform.
This is so interesting. You touched upon so many points, and these are all things that I talk about when I'm working with my clients. And you're right. I don't want to try to figure out what you do, because you're good at what you do. And, and I think it is so important that we do align with where we thrive, right? And try not to, you want to learn from others, but not try to be others. And so I think a couple of points you made here, this whole idea of being, kind of in this incubator and being around great minds and people that can help encourage you, but also provide knowledge. There's something to be said about our circle of influence, right? And I talk about this all the time when we choose to put in the company in our space, right? And, and it's so important, whether we're building a business or we want to start any new endeavor, whether it's running a marathon, whatever that is the people that we choose to circle ourselves around. So I want to commend you on that, because I think that's huge. And it definitely makes a difference. You're going to, if you're always the smartest person in the room, you're not going to exceed, and so you're not going to exceed whatever's in the room. So you always want to have people that are sort of ahead of you, right? Because we're going to always strive to be above, to meet at the level of those people. So I think that's awesome. And thank you for sharing all of that. I think that's good. But I really liked also that you touched upon, being the best we can and the gifts that we have, because I think that's important too.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I completely agree with whatever the common phrase is, you're the average of the 5 people who spend the most time around it. I think this equally applies to content. So I view your diet as, your diet's not just your food diet. So like, obviously if I eat food A, I feel good. Food B, I feel bad. I should probably eat more food A. So this applies to the people too. So if you're around people you feel energized, you feel positive around, you should probably hang around more people of that, which applies to what we just spoke about. But I think this also extends to the content of which we consume. So we're constantly being fed content. So whether it's like the garbage on Instagram Reels or TikTok, you're getting programmed by that. Or it could be some positive content like we're creating now, or some content that adds value. So you don't even have to be in the same room as them. Like, for example, some of the people I learn most from are just authors or podcasters, because we're not in the same room, but they're still speaking. They're giving their gems, and I'm absorbing it all.
Yeah, I know this is good. Interestingly enough, so I don't know if I shared with you, I do have another show called Starter Girls. I'm putting a plug in here for that. But I was talking to a gal yesterday, and the reason I'm bringing this up, because it so aligns with what we're talking about right now. And I don't know if when these go out, if they'll be in sync, but it's Gabrielle Penstone. She's an energy healer out of Australia. She was 27 years in psychology in the corporate space. And she said she got to burn out is what happened. And she decided to go on her own. But we were talking about energy, and we were talking about that. I told her I was studying this other something else. I'm always studying something, but now I'm studying this thing called NeuroFit, which is basically it goes into talking about nervous system regulation and nervous system dysregulation. And part of that is doing things that allow the nervous system to go back into regulation, because most people that are trying to achieve goals are trying to do them with the dysregulated nervous system. So all these things that you're talking about are part of the things that actually help regulate the nervous system, the content that we consume, the people that we're around. And so funny enough, they have an app and I'm using the app. I like it. It's stuff I kind of already know about. But what I love about it is that it actually has these boxes we got to check off. And one of the things on it, it says, I avoided negative content on social media. That's one of the buttons on there. I engaged in social play with another human for 10 minutes a day. It's all these things that we would do that we don't really realize are important, because they are things that either are positively or negatively affecting our nervous system. And what people don't understand is it's why those things, the science behind why those things actually affect whether or not we reach our goals and we do the things we want to do in life.
No, like honestly, and that's what I'm really glad you brought that up, because most people are walking around with a fried nervous system. Because if you look at people's like instant gratification network right now, it's just like dopamine, 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 more dopamine, just like everything is fried. So yeah, like the social media, first of all, it's great that like we all know social media is negative, but sometimes having to physically check out a box is very helpful. So a tip I personally use for my social, because I have two companies, so and one's a crypto company, so I do have to be on like Twitter and social media quite a bit.
Right.
But what I did a while ago is I took a conscious view of my Instagram. So I'm just like, okay, let me go through my stories. How many of these add value? 0. Oh, let me go through my reels. How many of these add value? 0. So what I did is I have my social media accounts because I do need them. They're in one place, but I've been trained, like subconsciously trained, to be addicted to social media just because of my age and just because of the way I grew up. It is what it is. So I placed chess.com right next to my Instagram, right next to my other social media accounts. So whenever I have the urge, which I do have the urge to, like, I'm like, maybe I should just go on Instagram and check something. So now I made it easy for myself to have that urge. And instead of going to Instagram, I'm like, okay, let me play a couple lightning games of chess, which is honestly just a much better use of my time.
Yeah, definitely. It is. And I think it comes down to being mindful. And I think that everything you're doing here, because I was reading through your profile and kind of, at the beginning we talked about simplicity, adaptability, and mental clarity. I think, when you look at somebody's profile, you can sort of kind of see, I think context matters, the way people live their lives. It's really embodies in the way they do their businesses and the big thinking that they're thinking and all the things that line up. So I think all of this, looking at your profile, I can tell that, mindfulness is being aware of what you're doing is probably important to you, if I'm getting that right.
Yeah, it's been, through hard work, it's been integrated. Yeah. Which definitely shows up in the business as well as social interactions, which benefits everyone. So it's a win-win-win.
Mm-hmm. And you say hard work because it's not something easy. I think being mindful of of where you're spending your time and your energy and your behaviors, it's a full-time job on yourself all the time. I know. And sometimes it's a curse and a blessing, because sometimes you don't want to do it, but then you realize, like you mentioned earlier, if you eat good, you feel different versus if you eat bad. And this is why I tell people, it's not just when I'm personally working with people, it's not just one thing we do in life. Like, we can say, I'm going to go start this business, or I'm going to start this great career and I'm going to be happy. No, you're not necessarily going to be happy because you do those things. This is a full-on approach from different angles. And it starts with everything from the people that we're talking to, the content that we're looking at, the amount of sleep, the food we consume, how we live our lives. It's like one big puzzle in the piece. And so just looking at something going, I'm going to create this great business or have this great job or this great relationship, whatever, that's one piece. It's not the end all.
Entrepreneurs, are you ready to level up your leadership skills? Tune in now for an exclusive offer designed just for you.
This is my time.
Did you know 63% of consumers prefer businesses aligned with their values? Recognizing your core values isn't just vital for business growth, it's the bedrock of effective leadership. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or an aspiring creator, identifying your core values is a key step in constructing the framework of a successful leader, enabling you to lead authentically, expand your business, and live life on your terms.
Never settled on play, putting the kettle to flame. I go 100 all day, foot on the pedal, no brakes. 10, 9, paid all my dues, waited in line, 8, 7.
Are you ready to access tools to kickstart your leadership journey? Unlock a treasure trove of insights and get your free resources at www.linktree/Jennifer Loehding. Take that crucial first step toward realizing your leadership aspirations and elevate your leadership game today.
ready to shine brighter than all of the
Yeah, no, and like it's hard to without mindfulness, you don't really have a base. So I think two things that are extremely powerful that are can be a double-edged sword are both your habits. So if you have bad habits, it just pushes you more and more negative. But if you have positive habits, it pushes you more and more positive. And the same can be a repetitive thought. So if most of your repetitive thoughts are positive, then you end up being a positive person. And I look at things in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. So like, if you're saying you're sad, you're saying you're nervous, you're saying you're angry, you're saying you're loving, you're saying you're joyous. What you're basically saying is I'm vibrating at a certain frequency. And just like a radio station, if you go to a specific radio station, you get that radio station. So like, if you're on your sad frequency, that's what you always attract sad people. But if you're happy, loving, joyous, and positive, then you attract those people in your life, and it creates a nice little upward spiral for you and those around you, which is something I really noticed at the incubator, because like attitude is extremely important. And I believe in energies as well. Like, I believe you can channel your own energies into creativity. I believe in the chakras and all that woo-woo stuff, but like, it really does make a difference.
You would have enjoyed that conversation then yesterday, because we were talking about everything. We talked about meditation, Reiki, we talked tapping, EFT, we were talking about everything yesterday. And it's so fun because I can only have those conversations with, not everybody understands. And I don't think that people are necessarily like, I think people are more, I shouldn't say it. Let me rephrase it. I think people are more open to that kind of stuff now, whereas they weren't before. It's like, I remember, I was telling somebody one day, I taught aerobics many, many years ago. And I remember in my 20s going into like a yoga class. And I was like, oh my gosh, these people are breathing weird and being like, I can't do this. Now I have a new appreciation for those kinds of things. I do, like I do the other day, I was telling someone that I was doing box breathing, and when I have anxiety, then that's what I do. I do something that's going to try to just, regulate my nerve. It might be dancing. It might be breathing. It might be lying on the floor and just being still, or it might be do some yoga poses. So I think that people are more open to it, but I find that I have these conversations freely with certain people, and other people, I don't have them.
And you're right. I've noticed something, because like usually it doesn't really come up, but like breathing is extremely important. Yoga is extremely important. Right. Meditation is honestly the best thing I've ever started, and it's yielded the best results, both business wise and personal life. So like one of the game changers in my life is I just got back from a 10-day Vipassana meditation retreat.
Saw that.
Yeah, which is a wonderful experience. So like that really set the base. It set my base as a positive, like a server, as just me generating positivity, and it's just reflected in the people I've interacted with. So now, like, instead of viewing the world as a competition, I view it as, okay, we're all on one big team. And now pretty much everyone I talk to in my business life, they're trying to help me out too, and I'm trying to help them out. So it's like, okay, who can help each other more, which is much more effective than saying, okay, let's try to squeeze out this extra 5%. It's like, who cares? And it's something I noticed, because in my early 20s, I was like, oh, this is stupid. Who cares? I'm going to, like, I have to work 12 hours a day. Like, it is what it is. But I've noticed at the VC, a lot of the more successful people, like the higher out, like the people who are like in Series A, Series B, like exits, the vast majority of them had a mindfulness practice. I remember one specific instance. I'm like, hey, do you want to grab lunch? She's like, I can't grab lunch. I'm busy from 2 to like 4. So like, it was in the middle of the week. He's like, yeah, I'm going to walk. I'm doing an hour meditation. I'm like, why do you even do that? Like, it's the middle of the day. Shouldn't you be working? He's like, I'm going on a walk and I have my meditation. I'm busy. And I'm like, that's weird. And then eventually he recommended a spiritual book, which I ignored for years. And then I finally got around to reading it in COVID. I'm like, I can see why he did that. But
Wow. Yeah. You find that it's something that, if you really, because I think success is different for everybody. And when I look at success, I see it as a big whole picture. I see it as being able to do what you want to do in life. And that means in all the areas of your life, being content in all the areas. And I don't mean that you're happy every single minute of the day, right? Because we have frustration, we get mad. But I'm talking like overall, you are content with the way things are in your life. And most of those people I feel like that are at that place are practicing these things that we're talking. They're doing some kind of mindfulness, some kind of, whether it's yoga, meditation, those walks, whatever, whatever it is. I mean, I run. And sometimes that can be, sometimes it's painful. It is not for me. Sometimes I still have to do something different, to bring myself. But I think when people are truly successful, they get it right in a lot of areas. And it's not just one, because I feel like these things, you can't, I had a mentor that said, how you do one thing is how you do all things. And when you think about that, if you're disciplined in your life, you're probably disciplined in a lot of areas of your life. And if you're having a hole somewhere, it needs to be cleaned up because it really transfers in all the areas. And so if you're eating right, you're probably doing other things right in your life. If you're running your business, well, because some people have good businesses, but they're not necessarily, they think they're doing it well, but the gaps are somewhere else. And I think when you have it right, the gaps are filled. They're not perfect, but they're filled.
No, 100% having a nice, whole, complete life is absolutely essential. Like, what's the point of being like a multi-billionaire if you're fat and your family hates you? But at the same time,
It's true.
If you're completely broke and you can't support your family, you have to fix that.
I agree.
Like health is wealth, and then spiritual, emotional health is equally important as physical and financial. So it all ties together. And the cool thing is, once you become more of a complete person, I mean, I view everyone as a complete person. They just have to realize it, which sounds kind of BSy, but once you realize you're a complete person, you start attracting more complete, happy people in your life, which just exponentially increases the value of your life, or the positive, like the vibe of your life, which is a win-win. And then once your vibe increases, it increases those around you, and those around them create a nice upward spiral.
Yeah, that's good. I agree with you on that, Eric. I would love to know, I want to kind of flip this. This has been good conversation. I know we could stay here for a while because it's all positive stuff. It's stuff I love to talk about because I do agree with you. You do attract different people when you show up differently, you attract different people, and that's what you want. I would love to know maybe some of the challenges you face coming from the corporate side, maybe to the entrepreneur space. I know you said you went into the incubator tank and were able to meet, some incredible people, but maybe some of the things you had to sort of, and it could be on your, in the business, or it could be on the personal level.
Yeah. So the biggest challenge I faced so I used to be my corporate jobs were at Snap and as a corporate restructuring consultant. And then I jumped heavy into the entrepreneur space. I didn't really have a plan, to be honest. I'm like, okay, this is just where I'm going to be. So I just started doing it. But my biggest issue was, I guess, first off, you have to come up with your own tasks. Like in a small stage startup, there's like 50 things you need to do. Like as a consultant, it's like you had your task list. You said, okay, you do this for this amount of time. You build the client out this much. It's very procedural. But in the startup world, it's much more free flow. So you have to keep figuring out new stuff to do. And the biggest thing I found is cutting off something that's not working. So in the consulting world, it's like, who cares? I'm just doing I'm doing my 8-hour day. I'm doing my task. I'm doing this task for 5 hours. I'll just keep doing it. They're paying me. So I'll just keep doing it because I don't care that much. But in the startup world, let's say you're doing something for 4 hours. After an hour, you realize it didn't work. If you continue to work for the next 3 hours on that subject, on that thing that isn't working, it's an opportunity cost. And in the startup world, you're basically paying yourself. So you're wasting your own time. You're wasting your team's time. So you have to be really adaptable. It's like, okay, XYZ, X isn't working. Okay, we have to stop that first off, but we also have to figure out why it's not working. And I think it's an issue of skin in the game. Cause like as a startup, you're like an equity holder. You have much more responsibility in the company. So you have more skin in the game. So you want to figure out why. Whereas if you're like a nameless face in a large corporation, like, who cares?
Yeah, no, that's true. And that's good. Thank you for saying that. I'm thinking about deleting because I had a guy come on my show that was talking about automating, deleting, and delegating. And that's what he used. It was like automate, delegate, delete, And so, yeah, we were talking a lot about that when you have to realize that you're doing something and it's not really adding to, we used to call them in the world that I was in income producing activities, right? Things that were going to generate income for you. That was ultimately they were doing something that would help bring in income in some level. Then we needed to let them go or figure out how to delegate them. So yeah, I think if you're doing something and you're at it for a while and you realize it's just wasted, it's not really going to, in the end, bring some kind of output, then yeah, let it go. For sure.
And then that frees up time to do something that actually adds value. So it's a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good. Thank you for sharing that. So what do you see as, I guess maybe anything on the new horizon? You think anything else you're going to create? You don't have to tell us. I don't know if you want to tell us everything, but any new goals that you think are out there that you're working towards?
Yeah, so right now my main company is ShopX, and our overall goal is, again, going back to my ethos, I think Bitcoin helps create a nice, peaceful life. And ShopX is a way for me to onboard people into the masses, and it creates incentive to do so. For example, we help a Web2 brand enter the space. They offer a Web3 customers for their they offer a Web3 product for their customers. with an e-commerce benefit. If their customers want the e-commerce benefit, they purchase a Web3 product and then they enter the space. So it's an incentivized way to get people into the Web3 ecosystem. Our overall goal for that, because I think it's extremely important to have like a large goal in the future that's numerical, that's measurable, and how you get to that goal, you work out in the meantime. So the goal for ShopX is to have 80% of all NFTs be ShopX eNFTs. Hey, eNFT is essentially an NFT with e-commerce value, and that's possible because of our solution where we attach a eNFT to each individual product SKU. So think of how many products there are out there. Yeah. If we can NFTize that, that's a lot of NFTs. Wow. So in terms of DATAIng, that's the first ever AI-powered matchmaking service. Our goal is to match 1 billion happy couples, and we're able to do that because what we do is we auto-generate profiles based on your digital footprint and create matches based on their digital footprint, putting our users in the position to succeed. Like, you still have to go on the date, you still have to be pleasant, but like, if the background stuff is there, like, for example, if we were to match, it could match us because we're both like entrepreneurs. It could match us because we're both into energies. It could make that match based on that. So when we meet in person, there's a better chance we succeed.
Gotcha. Very cool. Yeah. You got a lot of fun stuff going on there. It's exciting. So very cool. So last question I want to ask you before we wrap this up. I would love to know if you had to sum yourself up in a word or two, what would you say about yourself?
Nothing.
That's good. Nothing.
It's neutral.
I would say though, you're probably, I think you're driven, but it's more of a, maybe from a humanitarian standpoint. Am I getting it right? Kind of?
Yeah, no, I'm driven. My overall goal is to spread as much positivity as possible for myself. So like, my goal is to raise my own consciousness, and this raises the consciousness of those around me. So that's my main goal.
Yeah. No, and I think you mentioned something and the reason I'm saying this is you mentioned something very early on about serving other people. And I think that, one of the things that I'm sure you follow Tony Robbins, and he talks about the 6 human needs, and about Maslow hierarchy of needs, on the top of the tier of Maslow's hierarchy, but also on Tony Robbins, he talks about growth and contribution. And I think that a lot of times people are not feeling truly fulfilled. All those things we were talking about, being dysregulated, all those things we mentioned earlier, but also there's a part about that contribution part. They may be growing. They may be doing things to grow who they are as an individual, right? But there's a second part to that, and that comes with the contribution part. And that's the part where we have to find a way to make our work matter, something that we're doing. And sometimes it may be in our careers that we're fortunate enough, like you, I had you go through your story and talk about why you created this and what brought you to this. We find something in our work that says, hey, I'm doing this because I see a real need. I see a reason for this and how it can affect other people. And some people, it's not that. It may be another thing they do. Maybe it's something they do at their church or, and something in their community, right? But I think it's that extra layer at the end that is pretty big.
Yeah, no, you need that why.
Yeah. So I like to ask that question is fine. I don't ask everybody that all the time, but every now and then, just because I like to see what people say if they have to say something about themselves. I just think it's funny because some people be like, they come back with like, they got a word, like boom, so it's good. So Eric, if our audience hears this, I'm sure they're going to be intrigued by some of this. They want to find out a little bit more about your 2 businesses that you've got going on. I know I didn't mention the other one at the beginning, but I did see that you've got, the 2 things going on. So, but maybe they want to learn a little bit more about ShopX or DATAIng. Where do we want to send them?
Yeah, so the best place for ShopX Web3 e-commerce will be our website, shopx.co. And if you really want to do a deep dive, check out our community Discord. We have our crypto project community members. They're very honest stuff. They don't like the project they say, but they do like the project they say, which is less biased in my opinion. If you want to learn more about DATAIng, the best place would be our website, DATAIng.io. Join our waitlist. Our app goes live very soon.
Okay. Very cool. Exciting. Well, keep up the great work. Keep doing your thing. It's awesome. It's fun to see people succeeding and doing great things in the world and living their best lives, because that's what this is all about. It's living the extraordinary. And I think, to live the extraordinary, you got to do different things, right?
Yeah.
I love it. All right. And of course, we do want to say to the audience, we appreciate you. And if you enjoy our show, please head on over to Apple, give us a review there. You can head over to YouTube, subscribe so that we can keep sharing all of these amazing stories. And as I always say, in order to live the extraordinary, you must start. And every start begins with a decision. You guys take care, be safe, be kind to one another, and we will see you next time.